What up, Montana? Welcome in. Nuanez now, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Maybe you're watching SWX Montana Television. If you see, I voted. Go ahead and vote. I filled out my ballot yesterday. I think ballots are in the mail, so should be lots of action going on all around the state of Montana. So, it's your civic duty. If you want to live in a free democracy, participate. It'll be fun, I promise. This is your one-stop shop for all things sports, though, not politics. Just pointing it out just in case you are watching on TV. If you're not and you want to see my sticker, go to the YouTube channel. Nuanez will get you there. Please subscribe to it. If you do subscribe to it, let us know, because that's part of what you need to do to enter into our fall giveaway. We'll get to that here in just a little while. If you want to listen to the show somewhere besides on the radio, go to our station website, 1029ESPN.com. Or if you want to participate, 406-888-1029. That's 888-1029. All guests join us via the Rankish Brothers RV phone line. A lot to get to today here on a Monday. Riley Corcoran, voice of the Grizz, will be in studio with me in just a minute. Saw him just walk in, so he'll be making his way in here. And we'll get things kicked off with the Montana Football Hour, which is all things college football, high school football, and everything in between, the first hour of each Monday's show here on Nuanez Now. So we'll get to that here in just a minute. And then also our good friend Marty Morningweg. It's the Monday afternoon quarterback with Coach Marty. He'll swing by to talk all things NFL with us. And then if you hadn't heard, they keep piling up, another big win for the Grizz hockey team. So Tucker Sargent was actually in studio with me this morning. So we recorded a little something, but a unbelievable, unforgettable, dare I say, epic comeback by the University of Montana's hockey team against Montana State on Friday, trailing 4-1 in the third period, came all the way back and posted a 5-4 victory. So we'll hear from Tucker, the general manager of the Grizz hockey team, about 5:30 today. We are coming to you live from the Northwest Motorsport studio. Northwest Motorsport, new to Montana, new to Missoula, corner of Stevens and Mount here in the Garden City. You can also find them online at nwmsrocks.com. That's nwmsrocks.com. Let's dive into it. The Montana Football Hour, presented by Stockman Bank and Brett's RV and Marine. We're going to talk all things about domes today. I decided that's all we really need to know about.
Oh, my gosh. Really?
I can't. We're not even going to go there. I don't even. We're going to keep it nice and positive and have some fun today. The results. Let's start with the results. That's a better place to start than asking coaches about playing in domes. Sometimes I just get so frustrated in the situations we get into. But regardless, here we are with you. And let's talk about what actually went down over the weekend. My first time all year that I got to cover both the Bobcats and the Grizzlies in the same weekend. It was a lot of driving. It was a lot of fun. And I thoroughly enjoyed myself, both my trip down to Ogden on Friday as well as my afternoon on a beautiful Missoula day, Washington Grizzly Stadium on Saturday. Montana State, Friday night in Ogden, 13-7 victory. Bobcats are now 4-0 in Big Sky Conference play, 6-1 overall. And they continue to roll, 6 victories in a row. That loss also pushes Weber State to the brink. I think they're on the outside of the playoff picture looking in right now, and another loss, they're certainly out of the playoff picture altogether.
And they still have a game at Eastern Washington.
They still have to play Eastern Washington as well, and they're pretty banged up, and so we'll get into that game here in just a minute. And then on Saturday, a historic victory for Sacramento State, 28-21, Washington Grizzly Stadium. First time Sac State has ever won in Missoula, their 13th trip to the Garden City. And so Sac State also remains undefeated in Big Sky Conference play. They're now 3-0 in league. And Montana has lost 2 in a row in league play. They're 1-2 in Big Sky Conference play. So, Riley, let's start with the game that you were at. Riley, of course, the voice of the Grizz, joining me here in studio. And there's a ton of analysis to get to in this game, that just the in-depth nature of what went down. Why is Montana struggling in certain elements of the game? We'll get to that in a minute, but just your broad reaction from Sacramento State's win in Missoula on Saturday.
A couple of things. I think obviously disappointment comes to mind. We just come to expect this Montana team to roll at home, and they have. I mean, their last home loss came over 1,000 days ago when Montana State came in here and won. Besides that, there hasn't even been a game that's been close here in Missoula.
For sure.
Every win's been by 17 or more during that home winning streak. So when Sac State came in initially, scored the first touchdown, this team is not built, at least right now, not built to play from big-time deficits. And
Sure.
I felt that was probably the way that maybe the game plan would get off kilter a little bit. And Sac State came in motivated. It's absolutely, you could imagine. They were a team that was receiving votes. And this is a byproduct of maybe the FCS not getting covered on a national basis, really. I mean, it's almost impossible to do, but very difficult for a place like Sac State. They beat Dixie State by 12, and everyone overreacts to that, saying, okay, well, maybe they're just not as good as we thought. They have a ton of talent across the board.
Talent, and also excellent coaches.
Excellent coaching, and I think that we're going to get into that. Coach Halko admitted as well. Troy Taylor came in here. What a phenomenal game plan.
What a phenomenal game plan on both sides. Andy Thompson was maybe the MVP of that game.
He was. Andy Thompson, Craig Paulson, what they were able to do. I guess long story short, we're going to get into this. Montana's lost their edge. They've lost the swagger that they built after beating Washington, after going into Eastern Washington, and they feel they outplayed the Eagles for 3 quarters. And then the way the fourth quarter happened, both teams' seasons have completely flipped. And I think that you're seeing an offense right now that wants to be confident behind Chris Brown, but clearly is not. They don't have the same type of juice right now offensively. And defensively, I think you could say for the first time in a full game this year, they looked human. They looked mortal a little bit. So that's kind of my broad analysis of it. I'm curious to get your take as well. I mean, I have the headset on, and we look at it through sometimes a different lens, Greg Sundberg and I in the booth, but your initial thoughts from the win for Sac State.
Well, first of all, credit where credit is due. I think that Sacramento State, they had a phenomenal game plan, but they also executed it very, very well. They are having a lot of fun right now. I think that's one of the things that's given them an edge at a place where it's kind of hard to find an edge. And 11 wins in their last 12 Big Sky Conference games, that doesn't lie. I mean, the only Big Sky Conference game Troy Taylor has ever lost is when Kevin Thompson, his Golden Boy quarterback from 2019, got knocked out against Weber State. Other than that, they have not been beaten in Big Sky Conference play since Troy Taylor's been there. He's sort of the mad scientist. He's outside of the box. He's not really in the fraternity, so to speak, but he's got a couple guys that have been in the fraternity for a long time in Andy Thompson and Craig Paulson. And you make no mistake, Andy Thompson's a great defensive coordinator. I, in fact, actually think he's one of the best defensive coordinators in the Big Sky Conference, maybe the best. Certainly his experience gives him a leg up on a lot of the other competition, so to speak, in that title. But Andy Thompson played on the 2001 National Championship team. Andy Thompson was in town to hang out with his college buddies. There's no question that he had it dialed in an effort to display his product to the people he hadn't seen in a really long time. Like, what a better place to call one of your best games. And granted, again, it's against a Grizz team that has some problems on the offensive line right now, that has a freshman quarterback, that is playing their 5th or 6th string guy who happens to be a 5'10", 170-pound true freshman receiver at running back. So I'm not trying to make excuses for the Grizz, but the Grizz are shorthanded. That in itself is a fact. But what a display by Andy Thompson to come into Missoula and show off his product at perhaps the best level it's ever been. I mean, Andy Thompson came to Missoula 10 times when he was at Northern Arizona. Northern Arizona, as we know, famously, historically, laughably, never could ever beat Montana when Jerome Sowers was the head coach. This was Andy Thompson's first time around in his new gig, which is a different gig. I mean, he's the head coach of the Sac State defense. Troy Taylor answered a question in this, which we'll hear from him in just a minute, where he's like, yeah, dude, I don't look at when the defense is on the field. I'm the offensive coordinator. I'm working with the offense. So what a display by Andy Thompson to get that done.
They were ready to go from the outset, and you could look at all 3 layers of the defense, and they won. They absolutely won throughout the course of 60 minutes. The game plan was designed, obviously, to limit the big play and to just prevent it altogether. And I think that is where we're going to get to as well, from maybe the lack of the Grizz throwing it down the field. Well, you can say it's a little bit, well, Chris Brown needs to make better decisions or he didn't have enough time. At the end of the day, Andy Thompson saw all of this and just took away the strengths from Montana.
Montana Football Hour here on Nuanez now, 102.9 ESPN Missoula, as well as SWX Montana Television. The Montana Football Hour is presented in part by Stockman Bank of Montana. At Stockman Bank, they invite you to experience the Stockman difference. As a family-owned community bank with locations throughout Montana, Stockman Bank is committed to enriching the lives of Montanans and helping communities succeed. What that means to you is your money stays in the local economy, supporting your friends and neighbors. Riley Corcoran, the voice of the Grizz, in studio with me, Colter Nuanez. We do the Montana Football Hour, the first hour of each Monday show. Football heavy, of course, college football heavy after a couple big-time Big Sky Conference games for the Montana schools. Let's hear from Troy Taylor, as well as Jake Dunaway, Sacramento State quarterback, and Marcus Hawkins, Sac State linebacker. Dunaway threw 3 touchdowns. The dual quarterback, but more importantly, the dual running back system for Sacramento State gave Montana fits. We'll hear from Bobby Houck and Jace Lewis as to why here in the second segment. But Troy Taylor, Jake Dunaway, the quarterback. Marcus Hawkins, the linebacker / rover. He plays kind of all over the place for Sacramento State. They answered a couple questions following the game on Saturday afternoon into the evening. Marcus Hawkins, by the way, one of the plays of the game where he made a leaping interception right in the end zone after Sac State had muffed the punt. We're going to get into that, too. A lack of capitalization of opportunities for the Grizz. To me, other than the injuries, that's the story of the season. But here's Troy Taylor, his quarterback, Jake Dunaway, and his captain linebacker, Marcus Hawkins.
Your first time ever watching Grizzly State, but that's Sac State's first win ever here. So just talk about the win and what it took for your guys to get this victory.
Yeah, our team's resilient. You know, there were many a times where the game could have turned one way or another, and it did. We talked about playing through the ebbs and flows. Obviously a difficult place to play. It wasn't understated, it wasn't overstated. People talked about this place and the energy and the fans, and they were in it. They were in it the whole game. So great challenge against a really good team and a really well-coached team, and just couldn't be more proud of our guys.
Jake, you talk about the opening drive. You guys looked pretty sharp right out the gates and never trailed after you scored on that first possession.
Yeah, I mean, we just wanted to start fast and, just execute everything we'd been working on throughout the week. And, we wanted to come out and punch them in the mouth, and set the tempo. I feel like every time you start with the ball, that's your number one goal, and obviously put points on the board. So I just want to start fast and then keep that energy throughout the whole game.
Marcus, what were you guys able to do to limit Montana? It seemed like, particularly rushing the passer, you guys had a hell of a day.
Yeah, I mean, we executed what we called. Everything we did in practice, we transformed over here. We played a great game. That's about it.
Coach, can you talk about Coach Thompson's game plan? And I mean, this is a big weekend for him in a lot of ways, but I mean, he might have been the MVP of your.
He is. I've said since we've just met each other. When I hired him, I know who he was, but he's the smartest football guy that I've been around. I've been around some really, really smart guys, and there's nobody smarter than him. And the plan he put together, and his composure, how he gets the most out of his guys. He's always looking for a way to help his guys. He's not one of those coaches that just blames the players. He's always trying to find a different way. So he's as valuable as they get in our program. And an even better person, and a great Grizzly, obviously.
Coach, your own offensive game plan, I mean, everybody tries to mitigate the impact of Montana's pass rush. I think they only had one sack today. How are you able to keep them all balanced, get the ball out quickly?
Yeah, I mean, a very aggressive team, very active, so they present a lot of challenges. It was definitely a challenge preparing for them, but to be honest with you, we're always going to do our stuff with the little wrinkles here and there, and pass protection, we did a great job. Part of that is also on the quarterbacks, getting rid of the football, not holding on to it. So it's a two-way deal. But really talented team and very aggressive and difficult on defense. They're a huge challenge.
Did you notice Montana try anything different on offense throughout the game, or were they going back to a lot of the same stuff?
I got to be completely honest. I really focus on the defensive side of the ball. I'm the offense coordinator, so I have great trust for our defensive staff. I've watched a limited amount of stuff on them on offense. I had my hands full on the other side of the ball.
So there you go, Troy Taylor and a couple of his guys after a 28-21 victory in Missoula over Montana. Just the third ever win by Sacramento State over the Grizz. Their first win ever in Missoula. It is the Montana Football Hour here on Nuanez Now. I'm Coulter Nuanez, Riley Corcoran, the voice of the Grizz, joining me in studio. We do this for the first hour of each week here on Monday from 4 to 5 p.m. Always appreciate Riley for being here. We're going to get back into the analysis of the whys for the Grizz, because I know a ton of people that are listening to this show want to know, because it is a little bit perplexing what's going on. But I watched the game back twice yesterday, so I have a little bit of analysis to give you. But first, we're going to circle back around to Friday night's game on ESPN between Weber State and Montana State. First and foremost, Twitter was hilarious on Friday night. When
is it not?
That's true. But there's a captive audience when it's a Friday night game, and so then you have a whole bunch of people that might not even be rooting for. In fact, a lot of times they're probably rooting against both the teams that are playing, but they're watching. And so we had Eastern Washington and Idaho and Montana and Montana State and all these people tweeting, and it was pretty funny, the commentary. I heard things like, was this the worst football game I've ever seen? Am I in the Twilight Zone? How is the game on repeat? I mean, it was run up the middle, failed third and long, punt. The teams had 7 consecutive 3-and-outs. I've never actually seen that within a game. A total of 22 first downs in this game. A total of 3 third downs converted in the entire game. Wow. All that said, if you like offense, you like fantasy football, you like all that stuff, this game was not for you. This game was made for me. This was my dream game. I loved it. The first half lasted 1 hour and 1 minute. It was phenomenal.
With national TV timeouts. That's almost impossible.
I'm sitting here sweating from the time the game kicked off because I have to drive home. I'm sitting here thinking I'm going to be driving home at sunrise, and the sun doesn't come up until 7:30 these days. I'm like, I'm gonna die on Saturday. I'm going to get 0 hours of sleep. I'm not going to be able to function. And instead, the football gods did me a favor. This thing got over about 2 hours faster than I thought it was going to. All that aside, though, phenomenal line play, particularly by the defensive fronts of these two teams. I thought the teams flew around the football. I thought that at the end of the day, though, Montana State beat Weber in its own game. They got themselves a 2 field goal lead, and then they didn't try to run anything on offense. They just tried to milk the clock because they knew their defense was playing that good. Chase Benson, Daniel Hardy up front, unbelievably impressive for Montana State.
I watched this game, obviously, as I was getting ready to put the head to the pillow for Saturday morning's interview with Coach Hauck at 8 a.m. But the first question that I wanted to ask you, and I didn't even bug you on Friday night because I knew you had a lot of stuff going on, but was this a byproduct of more good defense, bad offense, combination of both?
I think it was the biggest byproduct was great defensive play up front. These are two outstanding front sevens. I was actually telling one of the guys I was sitting with in the press box that I'm actually really, really pleasantly surprised with the front seven play by some of the best front sevens in the league. I knew that Montana State, Montana would both be pretty good. They've been really good. I think a part of it is the extra training time. These guys are stronger than they've ever been before. They're bigger than they've ever been before. I mean, Chase Benson is like 24 years old, man. Like, dude has been in a college weight training program for 6 years now. That is a huge advantage, man. You give Troy Anderson 2 extra years. I mean, that's a huge physical advantage. A guy like Daniel Hardy, he was too skinny to play with his hand in the dirt. You give him 20 extra months of training, he can put on 30 pounds and actually get to the weight he needs. So I think, number one, incredible defensive play up front by both squads. I thought that the Scheist brothers for Weber State, absolutely as advertised. Those dudes are so good. I thought Connor Mortensen for Weber, man, that guy can run. He runs as well as any linebacker that doesn't play for Montana I've seen in the league. So I thought it was good. Also, though, both offenses definitely leave something to be desired.
Well, Weber State, right, it's perplexing because they went 97 yards down the field to open the game. You're thinking, okay, 13 days off. They're off a bye. They figured something out. They go down the field. Then nothing. Not even close to anything the rest of the way. I mean,
I want to know this, though, as you're a play-by-play guy that sees this stuff all the time. I think that there is a giant trend going on. Like 75% of the time in a college football game these days, the first team that gets the ball scores.
Yes.
And if they don't score the whole rest of the game, Washington Huskies score on their very first drive of the game. Eastern Washington score on their very first drive of the game.
Sac State,
very first drive of the game. Weber State, very first drive of the game. And then they literally did nothing. They had 97 yards on their first drive and 90 yards the whole rest of the game.
What does that go to show you about scripting? Because we all talk about, okay, coaches script out. And that's fantastic because that means that your 7 days or 5 days of prep leading up to that game is phenomenal. But it also goes to show me what's going on with in-game adjustments because that's what we talk. Greg and I talk about that a lot in the booth, but that's my first takeaway. How are there no adjustments offensively, or even more so, are the defensive coordinators that good that they see it one time and go, okay, we're going to change the picture, which I know we're going to talk about that term a little bit too.
I think that's how the D coordinators are playing chess. They're saying, hey, we're going to play base. We're going to show you nothing. No alignment adjustments, no stunts, no blitzes, no coverages. We're going to let you do what you do. We're going to see what you're trying to do. And then we're going to make the next chess move and try to stay a step ahead of you.
I think you're so spot on with that, too. And it's a trend that, obviously, I mean, we should go do that. I'll go do this throughout the last week and just go see first drive percentage scores because I feel it's way up, right?
Way up.
It's got to be way up. And then, I don't know, it's kind of like you're gambling on, okay, if we're going to show them base. If I'm talking about defensive coordinator side of things. And if they don't score, we really got them where we want them.
That's the craziest part about watching the Grizz is the first drive. Always, if the other team has the ball, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that the opponent has started with the ball in every game.
Every single game.
Because Bobby Hauck either defers or the other team picks to receive,
And
right?
it's weird to me that he's one of the only ones that does that.
It is weird to me, too.
Yes, because I mean, in the NFL, always, and I know there's a lot of comparisons, college and NFL, everyone always defers in the NFL. They want it in the third quarter. It seems like that, but yes, Montana's
Well, but if you're Bobby Houck, though, if you're playing at home especially, you absolutely want your defense. You want your kick team on the field first.
Yes.
Because then, Levi Janicaro is going to go blow something up, people are juiced, and then boom, the defense is rolling.
And let's just call it what it is. You put your best unit on the field first.
That's right.
And that's what Montana has been doing. Their defense has started on the field first every game this year.
Yeah. But regardless, it is funny to watch their defense early because they don't blitz at all. And then the second possession, it's just swarm. So, regardless, back to the Bobcat game. They put an unbelievable amount of pressure on Weber State. They didn't let him run at all. They knocked Josh Davis out, which, by the way, I'm not a doctor, but he ain't coming back anytime soon, man. It was really, really, really bad. It was one where he got hit, and even the Montana State players were waving the trainers. I mean, you could see the tears. I mean, I don't want to exploit the kid too bad. It was really, really, really bad. And so I think he's out for the foreseeable future.
And that's too bad because he obviously, I mean, a team that needs offense, Josh Davis
he's their best offensive player.
Without a question. And he has been really for a while, you could say, as far as explosive, consistency across the board. And I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here too, but that turf down in Ogden,
buddy,
not conducive to player safety.
I was talking about this with Dan Ingram from University of Montana Athletic Department. We were catching up a little bit after the Grizz game, and we were saying, man, like the variability of turf is tough, man. It's tough. There needs to be, and I'm not calling out just Big Sky teams. I think across the country there should be turf baselines. Like you should have to have this turf. Everybody should have to have standards, basically.
Yes, and you have it from wide range of spectrum here, where Weber State's is more like concrete, and that you look at Eastern Washington's and it's more spongy because it's newer, and you saw a lot of injuries in that Eastern Washington game. So it's across the board. But yes, our thoughts are with Josh Davis. That was nasty.
Nuanez now, ESPN Radio. It's the Montana Football Hour, diagnosing and going through the Montana loss to Sacramento State and Montana State's win at Weber State. Let's hear from a guy who played a big part in that win for the Bobcats. He's Ty Okada. We play a lot of coach sound around here. Coaches are the faces of the program. We like to play some player sound, too, from time to time. I particularly like just to have the guys on the show because then we can just have a little fun and have a little banter, a little back and forth. But let's be frank here. Ty Okada's the most entertaining dude on the Cats. He's playing at an all-league level right now, and so he's justified in getting these press conference interviews. But also, if I'm at a game, I'm requesting this dude because he just explains it really well. So here's Ty Okada a couple seconds after Montana State's 13-7 win at Weber State.
As we were just telling each other, that's our job. We play defense for Montana State. We pride ourselves in our tough, hard-nosed defense. We're going to play fast. We're going to play physical. And it's just what we do. That's the expectation is that if they have the ball, we're going to go out there and stop them.
Outplayed the best defensive team in the conference. So,
yeah, absolutely.
How much confidence does that give you?
I mean, we knew there was a new sheriff coming into town. So that's no surprise to us. But it definitely boosts our confidence. But we're not surprised at all.
Ranked win, on the road on a short week. How excited are you guys to be able to overcome all of those obstacles?
Super pumped. I mean, I knew we were ready. Come Sunday, which was our first practice, so we normally get Sunday off. We came in, and the electricity went down in the building as soon as we started watching film. And we're like, you know what? The cards are stacked against us, and nobody's complaining. Everyone's staying dialed. We didn't have any excuses all week. We ran with the punches, and so that's how I knew this team was going to come in. We were going to come in prepared and ready to go, is because nobody was making any excuses. We could have made 20 different excuses. Oh, short week. Oh, they had an extra bye week. Nah, we're just going to come in and we're going to get the W by any means. I got back into the locker room and I was talking to Jeff, and that was, we came in and he was like, that's to make up for Wyoming. Because as a defense, we had an opportunity to stop them. We didn't, and we knew we should have. So we came back this game and we took care of business, and that didn't feel good.
Ty Okada, Montana State junior safety, he had 11 tackles and a tackle for loss. Bobcats, I'm actually sort of disputing this. Sometimes I think that tackles for loss and sacks get counted a little bit inaccurately. The half sack thing is a big point of contention for me. I think that if you get the guy down and then someone piles on, I don't think you should get a half sack because that robs from the guy who got there first. Regardless, all I'm saying is official statistics credited Montana State for 5 sacks. I thought they had 6 sacks. I thought Daniel Hardy had 4 sacks, not 3. He was the Big Sky Conference Defensive Player of the Week. But regardless, Ty Okada, one of the 8 tackles for loss for Montana State Bobcats amongst his 11 tackles as the MSU went to Ogden and posted a 13-7 victory at Weber State. Montana Football Hour presented in part by Brett's RV and Marine. Brett's RV and Marine is proud to be the largest of all Montana RV dealers. They showcase the best inventory in the state at volume discount prices. They also have an awesome service department that stands behind their products. Brett's RV and Marine have been family owned and operated for more than 50 years. So stop on by 4800 Grant Creek Road and start your next adventure with the premier RV dealer in Montana. How much does momentum matter, especially when you play the style the Grizzlies play? How confusing was Sacramento State's two-back sets? And how does Montana State keep this momentum rolling? All that and more here on the Montana Football Hour. Keep it right here. Nuanez Now, 102.9 ESPN Missoula.
Introducing Sportsbet Montana, powered by the Montana Lottery. Join in the excitement of Sportsbet Montana by betting on your favorite sports and teams, both collegiate and professional, including NFL, NBA, MLB, MMA, NASCAR, and more. There are multiple ways to bet, including in-game, which gets you in on the action live as the game unfolds, and parlay betting, where you have the chance to win big. Sportsbet Montana is secure and interactive. Learn more at sportsbetmontana.com.
Oh, I love family road trips. Wind in my ears.
Good dog.
Braids in my mouth. And peace of mind knowing Les Schwab did our tires, brakes, and alignment. Like Les Schwab, my family's safety is my first priority. Well, that and squeaky toys.
Swing by today and get road trip ready with our always free pre-trip safety check. Les Schwab Tires. Applies to passenger cars, SUVs, and light trucks only. Details at leschwab.com/safety.
Open your new Stockman Bank account anytime, anywhere with online account opening. Now, you can open an account in minutes on your laptop, tablet, or mobile phone. It's convenient, simple, and secure. Open your new account today at stockmanbank.com. Then, add our online and mobile banking services so you can manage your money when, where, and how you want. Stockman Bank, Montana's brand of banking. Member FDIC.
Like most Montanans, we love a good steak. And because we're the Montana Club, we take the steaks we serve very seriously. We're confident to say that our custom grilled steaks are as good a steak as you're going to get. Now we're proud to add regularly sourced, naturally raised Castle Rock bison ribeye to our selection. And remember, the Montana Club steak entrees include the sides. Come into the Montana Club today for an unrivaled steak experience. The Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
If you've never had a Wappa sandwich from Warden's Market, well, you ain't living. The Wappa and all the other sandwiches available at Missoula's oldest grocery store have a legend that precedes them. Warden's Market also features an exceptional selection of craft and specialty beers. At Nuanez Now, we will be giving away a 6-pack and a sandwich from Warden's Market each Thursday during the 4 o'clock hour. Be sure to tune in to Nuanez Now, 102.9 ESPN Missoula, Thursdays during the 4 o'clock hour for your chance to win a 6-pack and a sandwich from Warden's Market, Missoula's oldest grocery store.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Montana State notched the first signature win of the Brent Vegan era, while Montana suffered a historic home loss on Saturday. Hello, I'm Colter Nuanez. Saturday afternoon in Missoula, Sacramento State posted a 28-21 victory over the Grizzlies, marking the first time in 13 all-time games at Washington Grizzly Stadium that the Hornets posted a win. Sac State's dual quarterback system gave the Grizz fits all afternoon, helping the Hornets roll up 462 yards of total offense as Sac State spoiled a game that doubled as the 20th anniversary celebration of Montana's last national championship team. Jared Gibson caught a pair of 24-yard touchdowns in the third quarter that proved to be the difference on the scoreboard. The Sac State defense gave up 272 yards of total offense, including just 84 on the ground, while piling up 4 sacks and forcing 2 turnovers to move to 11-1 against Big Sky Conference teams under head coach Troy Taylor, as Sac moved to 3-0 in league play. Montana is 1-2 with trips to rival Idaho on the horizon. Montana State went on the road and posted a gritty 13-7 win over Weber State in Ogden on Friday night. The Bobcats posted 5 sacks, including 4 by Daniel Hardy and MSU forced 2 fumbles while holding the Wildcats to just 4 second-half first downs on the way to MSU's 6th straight victory. The Bobcats are now 4-0 in league play, 6-1 overall, while Weber, the 4-time defending Big Sky champions, are 1-2 in league, 2-4 overall.
This 102.9 ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
What up? Happy Monday. Hope you had a phenomenal weekend. I put about 1,200 miles on the car, and I loved every second of it. It's Nuanez now, 102.9 ESPN Radio. It's Montana Football Hour, which is presented to you in part by Stockman Bank. When you bank with Stockman, you receive personalized customer service, and your phone calls always answered by a live person. Their highly skilled and personable bank staff is dedicated to making it easy for you to fulfill all your financial needs. Riley Corcoran joining me, Colter Nuanez, in studio here on the Montana Football Hour. Riley, the voice of the Grizz for his day job, and also my co-host for this phenomenal segment each and every Monday. And Riley, let's keep on going on this Grizz game. Montana loses 28-21. Sacramento State, Sac State's first win over Montana in Missoula. I see you got the box score up there. This was a point of much consternation in the press box on Saturday. I'm not going to I don't even want to go down this rabbit hole too much because it makes me so mad. But for whatever reason, there's been like this national mandate to change the statistical system.
It's brutal.
For all these websites for colleges. It ain't working for anybody. The box score Riley's got up says the final score is 28-27. Nobody could figure it out. This was half of the people that are working at this game were trying to figure out how to fix this the whole time. It's so annoying. All these school websites trying to rehash historical stats. It's not happening. The archives are gone. It took me like 2 hours to figure out how many kicks were returned for touchdowns when Bobby Haug was the head coach at UNLV. That should be like a 17-second exercise. And It took me hours to figure it out because the stats aren't anywhere. Anyways, I digress.
The NCAA is trying to make it all compatible for everybody, and it's just turned into a disaster. And what happened here, why it says 28-27, is the Keelan White touchdown on the punt return that was called back. It always counted. It counted as a touchdown, and they couldn't go back and rehash it. So,
oh, geez.
I mean, long story short, yes, it's been an utter disaster.
I'm glad you brought us to that because that's where I want to start. This is, let's see. This is my 9th season covering Bobby Haug in his 10 at Montana. Granted, when I was first doing it, I was just writing features at the Montana Cayman, so it wasn't really beat reported, but I've been around him and his style and watched so many games. I was thinking actually on Saturday when they said it was Sac State's 13th trip ever to Missoula, I was thinking, man, I wonder if I've seen every one of the Sac State games.
I bet you have. What was the first year?
Because 97 was the first year, but I started going to Grizz games right when I was around 10. My family's not from here, so we didn't really know about the whole Grizz thing or the Bobcat thing or anything like that. But then my neighbor got tickets. I started going with him in like 5th grade. But I reckon that I probably saw every Sac State game in
94 or 95 was their first ever time coming here. So I bet you that you have. And it's wild because they'd never won here. But if you look just a bit inside the numbers, which you know I like to do, of those 12 losses, there were 7 that were by 30 points or more, and there were 5 that were within a touchdown. So it's either really close or they get blown out of the water. And kind of had that sense.
There's also a flawed narrative that Sac State has been this bottom feeder in the Big Sky Conference. They have not at all, for especially the last 10 years.
They had one bad year with Jody Sears, and that was the year they came up here and it was 68-7 or something like that.
Right.
But then
within 2 years, they were in the playoff mix. Sears was the coach of the year. I mean, Marshall Spurbeck had winning seasons there. Jody Sears had a winning season there, and Troy Taylor won the Big Sky there. So Sac State there's always been this narrative that they're like that, but they're not. They're nowhere close to the bottom of there's a lot of other teams that have been far worse than Sac State for a lot longer.
Well, I think the best way to put this is that they've been close. They've been on the verge, let's just say, and Troy Taylor has gotten them over the hump. Where now they're recruiting a different type of player, and it's more, okay, Sac State's legit. They're in the top 15, top 20 in the country.
Well, then they've always had guys that, I mean, the best player at Sac State has been one of the 10 or 15 best players in the league for the duration of my time covering the Big Sky, because they get guys from the city. I mean, Garrett Saffron was an unbelievable player. DeAndre Carter's still scoring touchdowns in the NFL.
How about Obina?
George Obina. I mean, Todd Davis started for your Denver Broncos for like 3 or 4 years. I mean, he's not just like on a roster. He's a starting middle linebacker in the NFL. Darnell Sankey was on rosters for a long time. So regardless, we digress. Covering Bobby Hauck, as I have, and watching his teams play, the style and system Coach Hauck employs is to win as a team. And he doesn't highlight individuals nearly like most other coaches in the league, both from a play calling or a narrative perspective. That is the style of the team. All for one for all. That said, Coach Hauck and his staff scheme up and or expect multiple little opportunities in games that turn into massive swings in momentum. They'll always dial up something in the kicking game. They'll always send a block on a punt or something like that. Or, Coach Hauck will get in the middle of a kickoff huddle and say, this is the moment where we change the game. Or like against South Dakota State in 2009, where he just throws Mariani back there for a kick return. Boom, he houses it. First kick return he'd had in 2 years. He's always the punt guy, but a kick return. Or, there's these moments where when the opportunity is there, you have to seize it. You mentioned Keelan White's touchdown that got called back. Missed opportunity. White also had a couple other good returns, including one deep into Sac State territory. The Grizz don't capitalize. They get 3 instead of 7. There's the muffed punt by B.J. Perkinson from Sac State. Grizz recover. Pick on the very next play. What I'm saying is the moments that the Grizz need to seize are still within the game. They have been all season long. This team just isn't seizing them. If they fix that element and that element alone, their youth, their injuries, and all that could be overcome by the momentum that they can do. They can change games with. But we have seen it over and over again this year, whether it was a pick in the fourth quarter against Eastern or just lack of execution in certain areas where you have these opportunities. Montana is simply not seizing the opportunity. I think it's really as simple as that.
That's a really good way of putting it, because I know, and coming from me, this will sound like sour grapes. And yeah, of course you'd say that. But 2 red zone interceptions off of momentum-based plays have been the difference between Montana being undefeated and maybe the number 1 team in the country in a different narrative than where they're sitting right now looking for answers, wondering where some Grizz fans are going, can they get that swagger and edge back to capitalize on these momentum-changing plays? And you mentioned it. Coach Hauck designs the special teams for these kind of moments. And I thought the most deflating factor of that game was after the muff punt, to throw a pick the very next play. You have to capitalize on it. You can go through all the yardage numbers and everything that we can break down on a box score. When was the last time, this could be a fun stat to look up, when was the last time a Coach Hauck team forced 3 turnovers and got 0 points off of those 3 turnovers? That to me, there's a lot of stats. 9 for 15 for Sac State on third down. That was a huge one because we haven't seen that from the Grizz defense. But the single fact of no points off 3 Sac State turnovers when you're set up in great field position, that was the difference in the game for me.
Let's hear from Bobby Hauck following Saturday's loss to Sacramento State here in Missoula. It's the Montana Football Hour, which is presented in part by Brett's RV and Marine. Brett's RV and Marine, family owned and operated for more than 50 years. Come in and enjoy shopping in their extensive RV parts and accessories department and find out what makes Brett's RV and Marine the number 1 RV dealer in Montana. Bobby Hauck following Montana's loss to Sac State.
Good by them, not as good by us. Thought we had a good week of preparation. I like our football team. I like our toughness. I like our effort level. I like our competitiveness. I thought we had a great week of preparation. We were focused all week long and into the game, and we just got to play better.
Coach, preparing for the 2-quarterback system, I mean, once you saw it live, what sort of challenges does it present? And what sort of challenges specifically today did the 2-quarterback system for SAC present?
Well, they gave us a greatly higher percentage of 2-back offense. It was skewed way the other way from what the breakdown was. Nothing really new. I don't know how many times Jason and I were talking. I don't know how many times they ran the option play, the speed option. But that's a bit of a change-up for him generally, and it was a staple for him today. So, the 2-back stuff and I think this will be the comment across the board, that our inexperience shows sometimes when the picture changes for us a little bit.
You mentioned the young personnel. How challenging is it for freshman quarterback and a lot of freshman skill players to operate things like 2-minute drills? I mean, you had a 2-minute drill at the end of the half, 2-minute drill at the end of the game. I mean, how challenging is it for those young guys that never seen it before?
Yeah, I mean, we practice that a lot, so we should be good at that. And the one at the end of the first half was pretty good. And we got the field goal, as I busted Sean's chops at halftime about. He said, no touchdowns. I said, yeah, your math is great, Sean. Nice job. Can't divide 6 by 7. But, we practice that a lot. I don't know. If I had the answers to some of these questions, we'd be happier right now.
One other thing, just the pass protection. What's the biggest challenge you guys are facing right now in protecting Chris Brown?
I think generally the protection's pretty solid. It's been pretty good. It's pretty solid. I think I'll have to look at it, but I think sometimes we're not. The ball's either not coming out quick enough, or we're not trusting that protection rather than it being a protection breakdown. Now at the end, there's a couple. We got beat.
You have a lot of young guys who have to grow up early right now, but last week you said you wanted to see your offense step up. Do you feel like you saw that as the game progressed today?
Yeah, we made some plays. We made some plays. It just, when you come up short, it's not good enough. It's not good enough by anybody, and then you look in the mirror. So that all starts with me. So if we're coming up short, whether it's on the scoreboard or any position, that's me. I gotta get it fixed. It's in the job description.
There you go, accountability from Bobby Houck, Montana head coach. His team lost 28-21 to Sacramento State. It's Nuanez now. It's the Montana Football Hour. Riley Corcoran joining me, Colter Nuanez. I asked Coach Houck there about the protection, and I think that's something that's worth addressing, and we'll hash that out throughout the rest of the week as well. But, for example, Montana gets a 4th down stop, about 90 seconds left against Sac State. They get the ball back. On their second play then, Chris Brown has a clean pocket, but instead he rolls outside of the pocket, and that allows the Sac State DN to flush him. Chris Brown has to throw the ball in the middle of the field to Junior Bergen on a check down. It's a 1-yard gain. It gets Montana into a 3rd and long, and the clock's running, and Montana has to waste a timeout. That in itself was a microcosm of what's going on here. What I see as somebody that watches and analyzes offensive line play is Montana's having a little bit of a hard time getting a push, but not as bad as what it seems. They just don't have running backs that know how to read the inside zone. But then secondarily, even when they are running multiple tight end sets, their running backs are, I guess at this point, that it's not even a running backs plural, really. It's only Junior Bergen. And this is not his fault because this is not the expectation of what he was brought in to do. But he can't help out in pass protection at all. And the tight ends are hardly helping out at all as well. So then even when you do have a clean pocket in pass protection, the quarterback is already gun shy. Now he's rolling out. Chris Brown broke what was a clean pocket at least half a dozen times on Saturday. And so I think that it's nothing major that's happening to Montana. It's very many minor things that are then causing a major issue, which is a complete lack of functionality by the offense. But I do think, though, it is one thing leads to the next. I think that there's been a lot of narrative around Missoula and the Montana program that many of the intrinsic problems are quarterback driven. I don't think that that's true. I think that there's something missing in the offense, and I think it's across the board. But I also don't think it's some crazy catastrophe. I think that there's several different things that small things that they could fix that would then turn into a big thing.
Well, it's a domino effect, right? It's an absolute domino effect from the lack of having depth at running back to where you're bringing 3 tight ends in there just for protection, right? So what's that do at a very basic level, Colter? He's got, 2 receivers that he has options at, and then not maybe seeing it correctly or
Well, they are running some of the tight ends on pass routes, which they should because Cole Grossman's a great receiving option. But they also, their tight ends, Joey Owell is the only one that's really made to inline block at this exact moment of his development. I think that's hurting him a little bit too.
I think so too. I mean, you still look at it, freshman, and we were talking about this. Coach Houck playing freshman, it's a tough nut to crack. I mean, 3 tight ends freshmen, 3 running backs that we've seen freshmen as well, but it's just unfair, and it's quite frankly, it's just a little bit lazy to just point right at quarterback and say that those are all the issues because, I mean, just like when they win and there's success, it's all for one for all. Know what you said with Coach Hunt? It's the exact same scenario going on right here, and it's a trickle-down effect, but it really goes down to this X factor off the field, off the X's and O's. There's no swagger. There's no edge. The offense was playing with confidence, obviously, even after they beat Washington. Western Illinois, playing with confidence. Cal Poly, all three phrases work together. They've lost that edge, and somebody... What do you look at when you need to get something back? You look at senior leadership. Offensively right now, the exception of Sammy Akem, you don't really have much senior leadership outside. And I think that they're looking for answers. They're looking at somebody to want to step up, and they're going to need that to get that swagger and edge back.
Well, I think the defense needs to lead the way in terms of getting that swagger and edge back as well. And again, there are two different elements to this. There's a tangible element and an intangible element. The tangible element is what we're trying to diagnose from the X's and O's. The intangible element is a lot harder to define, but the Montana defense seems to be playing with a little less swagger as well. On Saturday, I think they were just completely crossed up. They talked pregame about preparing for Sac State's dual quarterback system. It was Sac State's dual running back system that really had the Grizz crossed up. Jace Lewis talked a little bit about that right after the game.
Jace, Sac State getting a lot over in the middle of the field, and also they were able to slow down your pass rush a little bit. So what did they do offensively that sort of let them have success?
I mean, they came out in two backs. I mean, we practiced that this week, but they slowed their pass rush down a little bit, and we just got to play better on third downs too.
Jason, I was just wondering, what it's like for you guys on defense, playing against the two quarterbacks, especially because, they were ranked option with both of them, they're throwing with both of them. It didn't really seem like there was all that much you could key on. What was that like? I mean, because that's a unique thing to face.
I thought it was totally different. Didn't you? Yeah, I would say that.
I thought it was totally different. I mean, you don't really see that much. I mean, all week we knew they were going to play two quarterbacks, so it wasn't really anything we knew that was going to happen.
I mean, depending on who was in the game, 10 or 12, it was a different offense as planned. But
so you go, Jace Lewis, and a little feedback from Bobby Houck as well. It's Montana Football Hour here on Nuanez now 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Montana Football Hour presented in part by Stockman Bank. Stockman Bank has 36 locations that are only in Montana. It's for Montanans, by Montanans. They're only in Montana. They plan on keeping it that way. Let Stockman Banking show you Montana's brand of banking. Today, Riley Corcoran in studio with me, Colter Nuanez. He's the voice of the Grizz. A couple more thoughts on Montana State's win at Weber State and an analysis of how much the play count or the disparity in it is affecting the Grizzlies at the midpoint of their season. Keep it right here, ESPN Radio. Why build a work history and a job when you can build a future in your own business? Westpac Wealth Partners is looking for entrepreneurial-minded people who are ready to take their future into their own hands. Nick Tabor and his associates provide clients with financial tools and tested solutions for navigating this complex financial climate. Westpac Wealth also has a work culture that has been recognized as a best workplace in Fortune magazine. If you're ready to start building a business in a long-term career, apply at westpacwealth.com. Westpac Wealth Partners, LLC is not an affiliate or subsidiary of PAS or Guardian. Insurance products offered through Westpac Wealth Partners and Insurance Services, LLC, a DBA of Westpac Wealth Partners, LLC. Colter Nuanez here from your favorite daily sports talk show, Nuanez Now. I know most of you are like me. You keep your precious car outside in this frigid Montana weather. If you want to change your outlook on those freezing Monday mornings, do what I did. Get yourself an automatic car starter at Aspen Sound. Aspen Sound will install the starter for you efficiently and keep you warm. Aspen Sound can also hook you up with sweet window tinting or a top-notch sound system for your vehicle. Stop by Aspen Sound at 1300 West Broadway in Missoula today.
Feel the music at Aspen Sound.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Bob Ward's, your hunting headquarters, wants to remind you to keep an eye on that calendar. Don't miss out on opening day because you don't have the gear. Get into Bob Ward's now. You'll find the biggest and best selection of everything from scopes to shells, rifles to rangefinders, calls to camo, and much, much more. Visit your local Bob Ward's for in-store sales updated weekly. Hunters, your season is here. Head into Bob Ward's and gear up. Bob Ward's, sports and outdoors. Montana's best friend for the great outdoors for over 100 years.
Sometimes all the sports commentary gets a little bit exhausting. That's not true. You love sports, but we like to bring the laughs, and sometimes we like to make fun of ourselves a little bit as well. And that's what Carolyn, the chick who doesn't know sports, brings to Nuanez Now each Thursday.
Well, okay, so speaking of soccer, last week we talked about Malice in the Palace.
Yes.
Well, this week in France, as I like to say, since I'm from Chicago, France, there was a Malice in the Palace, or whatever. I don't know how you say it in French. But there was a team between Nice and Marseille.
Sure.
Anyway, ended up.
We are such uneducated Americans.
I am not. Listen, I can say croissant and French fry and Cabernet.
Catch Carolyn, the chick who doesn't know sports, each Thursday on 102.9 ESPN Missoula.
1, 2, 3. Nuanez Now on ESPN Radio. Give me the bridge now. I feel like busting loose. Give me the bridge now. I feel like busting loose now. Busting loose in the evening. Busting loose can be pleasing.
What up? Welcome back. Happy Monday. Thanks so much for kicking it here with us. It's Nuanez Now on ESPN Radio, Montana Football Hour. We do this the first hour of each Monday show. Riley Corcoran, the voice of the Grizz, joins me for that 4 to 5 slot each Monday, recapping mostly, and in this case today, exclusively, Grizzlies, Bobcats, and maybe a little Big Sky Conference as well. The Montana Football Hour is presented proudly by Brett's RV and Marine. Brett's RV and Marine has 75 RV and boat brands to choose from, offering the largest inventory under the Big Sky. Stop by 4800 Grant Creek Road to start your next adventure with the premier RV dealer in Montana. Look around the Big Sky Conference real quick before we have a couple final thoughts on both Montana's loss to Sac State and Montana State's win at Weber. Idaho State, stick a fork in them, at least when it comes to the playoffs. They lose 31-10 to Portland State. The struggles continue for the Bengals. They are 1-5 now. Big win for Portland State. I'm not saying it keeps anything alive other than a chase at respectability, but it's a good confidence builder for Portland State. The next one, I got my new fancy iPad, so I always have a secondary game on in the press box.
Do you like it, by the way?
I do like it.
Yep.
I like it big time. We were having some belly laughs because I had the Eastern Washington Idaho game on.
Oh my gosh!
And it just started, and it didn't end. The assault by the Eastern Washington offense. I mean, Eric Berrier had 600 yards passing on 23 completions. The dude's just chucking it.
He had 300 yards passing in the first quarter, and the first time I looked, because I looked more sporadically during the Grizz games, 13 minutes to go in the first half, and they got 43 on the board.
Berrier threw for 607. He didn't play in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, wow.
Unbelievable. 71-21, Eastern Washington over Idaho. I don't even know what you do if you're Idaho after that one. I mean, that's pretty tough, losing by 50 when you actually scored 3 times. Unbelievable. I thought the lack of effort on Idaho's part in the second half defensively was astounding. But we're not going to go down that road quite yet. We have a lot of preview of Idaho throughout the rest of the week as Montana does head to Moscow this weekend. Northern Arizona, they let it up again as well. I think a program record for total yards in the game, and they beat Southern Utah 59-35. There's some teams with some real bad defenses in the Big Sky this year. My goodness. And then UC Davis back on track 32-3 over Northern Colorado. So there you go. That's your Big Sky scoreboard. Nothing much to sneeze at besides Eastern's continuation to pile up points. But couple last thoughts here, Riley, on the Montana schools. But I guess first, if you have anything to say about the Big Sky, anything sticks out.
I just want it for the record right now, because we were talking a little bit before the show started. On October 18th, how many Big Sky teams do you think are going to get in the playoffs?
You think 5. I think
5.
3.
I think 5.
I only think that because of a fundamental disrespect of the league.
I agree with that, but I also feel that there are going to be 5 teams that have 3 losses or fewer, and that's a byproduct of the schedule.
Right.
It's the Big Sky this year, maybe more than ever, and it's shaping up. It's the haves and the have-nots.
For sure.
And the 5 teams that have it are going to finish either 11-0, 10-1, 9-2, or 8-3. So I just wanted that one for the record, that I think that, especially with Sacramento State, they were kind of that team in between.
Yeah.
With their win now and their schedule where they have 4 really soft games before UC Davis, they should easily go 8-3 or better. Davis should be 8-3 or better.
Yep.
Eastern looks great. The Grizz and the Cats look like playoff teams too. So I'm going with 5. That'll be a fun topic on these Mondays the next couple weeks.
I mean, Idaho State can't find it at all, but they found it against the top 10 UC Davis team. All I'm saying is that you can say that these games are chalk on paper, but they're not. Like, one of these teams is going to, I don't have the schedules memorized, but one of these playoff contenders is just going to go to Flagstaff and lose. Or, Northern Colorado is just going to go on the road and beat somebody. Or Cal Poly is going to catch lightning in a ball. Like, you just never know, man. You never know when a backside block gets rolled into your best player's leg, and then he's got out of the game, and then all of a sudden your team is reeling. At the end of the day, man, it's like every coach will ever tell you. These guys get paid. Those guys are on scholarship, too. I mean, the coaching staffs in this league are really good. You never know when your team shows up flat. Like, you never know when your quarterback gets a fight with his girlfriend. Or, there's so many things, man. Like, these are kids, right? Like, there's so many factors that go into it. So, we'll see. But we'll mark it down. I only think 3, not because I don't think there's quality teams in the league. I just think that the league might get disrespected at the end of the day. Montana State hosts Idaho State this weekend. Montana heads to Moscow to play Idaho. I think it's actually a good scenario for the Grizzlies to have a rivalry game on the road against a team that they'll be fired up for, but that they definitely are favored to win against. I think it could be a get-right game for Montana, and they need one real bad. And Montana State, I think it's a great final tune-up then heading into their bye week within Eastern Washington on the horizon. So I think that in terms of the opponents that await the 2 Montana schools, I think it couldn't be much more ideal.
I would agree with you, especially from the Cats' perspective, too. Now, coming home, they beat Weber, kind of their first hurdle. Their schedule sets up great for them. We're at home and then a bye. And I think that bye is important because you don't have to worry so much about a trap game, right? I mean, if you look at the standings right now, it's setting up for a showdown, probably for the league title in Cheney, first weekend in November. And if you had that looming this week with a pesky Idaho State team, clearly, it is so clear at this point, Idaho State is that team that when you were describing about they're going to come up and just get you.
Yes.
They can beat anyone. They play to their level of competition.
Sure.
So I think they're going to come in and make
no mistake. These guys might be closer for their jobs now too at Pocatello. I mean, I believe it's a contract year. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know, but I think that there's a lot to be gained for Idaho State to have some success here down the stretch, even if their playoff hopes have already been dashed.
And we have seen it with both Montana schools. If opposing teams can beat Montana or Montana State, it's worth like 3 to 5 wins. It seems like. I think that scenario may be more true, Coulter, for the Vandal side of things, and that'll just create interest. You have 2, just quite frankly, pissed off teams playing each other this weekend in Moscow, so it'll create quite the dilemma. And at this point, who knows what team's going to show up? It'll be interesting to see, but I do like it on paper for both the Cats and the Grizz this weekend.
This has been the Montana Football Hour, presented by Stockman Bank of Montana and Brett's RV and Marine of Missoula. Riley Corcoran, the voice of the Grizz, in studio with me, Coulter Nuanez. Thanks so much for being here, man.
Always.
Pleasure as always. Hour 1 in the books. Hour 2 coming at you Monday afternoon quarterback with Coach Marty Morningway here on ESPN Radio. Keep it dialed. It's 102.9 FM. Backed by popular demand, Zootown Sports Cards presents the Missoula Sports Card and Collectible Show. On Saturday, October 20th at the Doubletree Hotel, come check out exceptionally rare and coveted cards and goods from more than 30 vendors from around the state and region. The specialty show lasts from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m., and admission for attendees is free. So come check out the hottest in the memorabilia industry at the Missoula Sports Card and Collectible Show at the Doubletree, October 23rd, presented by Zootown Sports Cards of Missoula. Hey, it's Colter Nuanez from Nuanez. Now I'm here with Brent Wahlberg of the Wahlberg team at Windermere Real Estate. And Brent, you guys have been the official realtors of Grizz Athletics for quite some time. What most do you like about supporting the Grizz in Missoula?
Born and raised here in Missoula. I grew up 2 blocks off campus. A lot of us Montana kids were growing up on weekends in the fall. You're out in the woods hunting. I was sitting in Dorm Blazer and then Washington Grizzly Stadium watching the Grizz. I grew up with Grizz in my blood. It's just a wonderful part of our community and happy to be a part of it.
Give the Wahlberg team a call today, 529-4663. Paul Ryan is a name that's been synonymous with law around the Garden City for decades. And Paul is excited to announce the expansion of his firm to Ryan, Holloway, and Miller. Paul Ryan, Nate Holloway, and Angie Miller have a fierce love for their community and want to help you with any of your legal needs. From auto accidents to medical malpractice to wrongful death or any criminal defense, Ryan, Holloway, and Miller should be your first call. Paul has established a reputation as the top legal mind in Missoula, claiming the Garden City's best attorney honors 13 different years. Ryan, Holloway, and Miller is a local firm with experience and intimate knowledge to help clients with any needs. Ryan, Holloway, and Miller will be available to take your calls at any time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So no matter what your legal needs in western Montana and around the Treasure State, when it comes to personal injury or criminal defense, call Ryan, Holloway, and Miller today. Ryan, Holloway, and Miller, your Montana attorneys.
Missoula has always held a wonderful reputation as a runner's haven, a place where those who like to jog along the river and those that like to bound around the trails thrive. From the dedicated weekend warriors of our Montana communities to the exceptional college and high school running talents from across the Treasure State, many of the best athletes are the runners in and around western Montana. Tune into Nuanez Now, twice a month for River City Runners, a local segment about the Montana running community. River City Runners is proudly presented by Zootown Sports Cards.
Wake up and text. Text and eat. Text and meet up with a friend you haven't seen in forever.
Hi.
Oh, hey. Text and complain that they're on their phone the whole time. Text and listen to them complain that you're on your phone the whole time. Text and whatever. But when you get behind the wheel, give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Montana State notched the first signature win of the Brent Vegan era, while Montana suffered a historic home loss on Saturday. Hello, I'm Colter Nuanez. Saturday afternoon in Missoula, Sacramento State posted a 28-21 victory over the Grizzlies, marking the first time in 13 all-time games at Washington Grizzly Stadium that the Hornets posted a win. Sac State's dual quarterback system gave the Grizz fits all afternoon, helping the Hornets roll up 462 yards of total offense as Sac State spoiled a game that doubled as the 20th anniversary celebration of Montana's last national championship team. Jared Gibson caught a pair of 24-yard touchdowns in the third quarter that proved to be the difference on the scoreboard. The Sac State defense gave up 272 yards of total offense, including just 84 on the ground, while piling up 4 sacks and forcing 2 turnovers to move to 11-1 against Big Sky Conference teams under head coach Troy Taylor, as Sac moved to 3-0 in league play. Montana is 1-2 with trips to rival Idaho on the horizon. Montana State went on the road and posted a gritty 13-7 win over Weber State in Ogden on Friday night. The Bobcats posted 5 sacks, including 4 by Daniel Hardy, and MSU forced 2 fumbles while holding the Wildcats to just 4 second-half first downs on the way to MSU's 6th straight victory. The Bobcats are now 4-0 in league play, 6-1 overall, while Weber, the 4-time defending Big Sky champions, are 1-2 in league, 2-4 overall. This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Selway Armory.
Cause she know I got my game intact. I spit them lines that make a rapper have a brain attack. And chickens know that I'ma do it how I wanna do it. And miscommunication, no, we never.
Hey, what's up? Happy Monday. I know people talk about having a case of the Mondays, but we don't believe in that stuff around here. We bring the heat every Monday. This is our favorite day of the week because we get to recap all the football from all different levels. From around the state of Montana, around the Western region, and around the United States of America. It is Nuanez Now, your one-stop shop for all things sports here on ESPN Radio. I'm Colter Nuanez. We're broadcasting to you from the Northwest Motorsports Studio It's Trucktober. You can get financing as low as 1.99% APR at Northwest Motorsport. They boast the largest inventory of trucks anywhere in the Pacific Northwest. Head on over to NWMS Rocks. That's NWMSRocks.com to check out over 1,600 trucks that they have available in the Northwest. Missed anything in the first hour of the show? It was the Montana Football Hour. Riley Corcoran, voice of the Grizz, joined me, Colter Nuanez, in studio. Recap Montana's 28-21 loss to Sacramento State, as well as Montana State's 13-7 road victory at Weber State. Also took you around the Big Sky Conference. You can find all that on the podcast, Nuanez Now podcast. Please rate, review, subscribe. As we do each and every Monday, it's time now for the Monday afternoon quarterback with Coach Marty Morningweg in studio with me. Coach, how you living? How's your weekend? What's going on?
Colter, let's eat. It was a heck of a weekend. We had a double bye with my boys, so my wife and I watched a lot of football on Saturday. Got out to play a quick 9.
What a beautiful day to play some golf.
Oh, my gosh, what a great weekend. In fact, today's beautiful in the sun.
Yeah,
it seems to me.
right.
In the shade, a little chilly, but seems to be about 70. What a great excitement this weekend, though, Colter.
The NFL was certainly packed with excitement. Before we get to that, though, I got to get just your broad thoughts on the Grizz. The 28-21 loss to Sac State. I thought there was a couple different things, and I want to actually ask you a follow-up after this, but what did you think of just the result on Saturday for Montana?
Well, first of all, go Grizz. All right, now listen, I think a lot of fans probably think that they feel it more than the players or coaches. And that's what they do, right? All right, so here's what we do. We get it corrected. Well, first of all, the young men have to admit their mistakes, and then you find the solutions, get it corrected, and you move on fast. There's another game coming up. Bobby, I'm sure, has picked out 2 or 3 things on offense, defense, and special teams that they can get corrected really quick with a little hard work and preparation. So I would expect to see just a little bit different team from now down the stretch. It looked like they were a little bit different team this week, didn't it?
It did.
Really a little bit conservative on offense.
Yep.
The defense, which I have been impressed with up till this last ball game, I thought they were missing the pressure on the quarterback. So you go, okay, why? Why was that missing? I was impressed with Sac State's offensive scheme and offensive play. I think they kept us off balance just enough to have some really, really good success on offense.
When you see teams playing a little bit or a lot more hesitant than you're used to them playing, a lot of that is scheme, right? I mean, to me, Bobby Hauck said in the postgame press conference, he said, when we were on defense, this came down to the fact that we prepared for the 2-quarterback system, but we didn't realize they were going to run nearly as much 2-back stuff. I think the 2-back stuff is what made Montana back off all their pressures and things like that. So sometimes when you're playing hesitant, it's just a little bit of maybe a schematic difference that you didn't expect.
And the experienced players, that experience tends to pay off in games like that when you're seeing a host of things that you did not prepare for the week of the game. They may have seen it 1 year ago.
Sure.
2 years ago, and they can adjust much easier.
Well, that's the other thing, too, is that this giant gap there's not very many trends you can decipher, right? I mean, looking at a team from 2 years ago is totally different than it is now, too. And I know there's a couple of games into this season now, but regardless, I'm not trying to explain it away for the Grizz. Sac State deserves a lot of credit for coming in here, getting their first win ever at Washington Grizz. But the other question I had for you, Coach, is I know you had Chris Brown, the Montana quarterback, at your camp. You do have a great camp every year, the Marty Morningweg quarterback camp here in Missoula. And Chris Brown from Bozeman came, but not necessarily analysis of him. This is my analysis of what's going on with the Montana pass game. The kid is really struggling with pocket awareness. A lot of times he'll have a formed pocket and he'll still break out. I don't know if that's because he's a little gun shy or he has gotten hit pretty bad a couple times and fumbled. But to me, I think that if he could just find pocket awareness, he could settle in. He's holding on to the ball too long. He's rolling out when he shouldn't be. There was a couple times where the pocket was set and he breaks it, and then all of a sudden the D end's just chasing him. So I guess my question for you is, what sort of challenge is that for a young guy to learn that element of the game, and can it be learned within the season?
Absolutely. First of all, Chris Brown, impressive young man and a talented young quarterback. And I stress young. I'll tell you what, a first start, second start, that first year of a quarterback's sort of experiences, you're going to have some ups and downs. Now, you're talking some specific things. I thought there was a couple times he could have pushed in the pocket. Some of that's natural instincts. Much of it's training. Some of it's experience. He'll just keep getting better and better and better. Now, I do think there's a time where you have to turn a young quarterback loose. You know, the other thing on defense, Coulter, that just popped in my mind, they threw so many back shoulder fades that I'm not sure Montana has seen before this. They were very, very good at that, and those are chunks of yards. So I was impressed with Sac State just a little bit. Now, here's what Montana does right here, okay? Identify the solutions, one game at a time, win out, and nobody even remembers this game. You're in the playoffs. You're rocking and rolling. The Montana Grizz versus the Cats game are going for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. The tickets I'm talking about, Coulter.
It's going to be fascinating.
Do you have any tickets?
Oh, man. If you were not alone in asking me that, that's like the number one question I get. Yeah, you got some Cat Grizz tickets for me? Marty Morton in studio with me, Coulter Nuanez. It's the Monday afternoon quarterback with Coach Marty, longtime NFL coach, and himself a former Grizz quarterback. I don't want to beat this horse to death, so we'll move on from the Grizz because we're going to talk plenty about them and the Bobcats throughout the rest of this week. But, Coach, first of all, the Monday afternoon quarterback brought to us in part by Brett's RV and Marine. Brett's RV and Marine has 75 RV and boat brands to choose from. That's the largest inventory under the big sky. Stop by 4800 Grand Creek Road and start your adventure with the premier RV dealer in Montana. Coach, let's start with some NFL stuff. First and foremost, I want to ask you just about the arc of a season. We are now 6 games in, so that's about the 1/3 mark in this 17-game season. There's some teams that are out to great starts, some teams that are out to not so good starts, and a whole bunch of teams that are sort of just sitting there. Last night, the Steelers win on a game-winning field goal to go to 3-3. That pushes Seattle to 2-4. But at what point do you start to analyze where you're at with your schedule when you're on an NFL team? Like, hey, we're 3-3. We there's no more room for error. We're 2-4. We got to start winning. At what point do you start to just analyze the numbers and what you got left ahead of you?
Yeah, a couple things come to mind, Coulter, on that. First of all, nobody's out of this thing yet because it's a marathon season. There's about, like you said, 6, 7 teams with one loss, and there's one with no loss. And then there's 6 or 7 teams with 2 or less wins, it seems like. And then everybody else is in the middle. It's a whole different mentality in the NFL. Every game is important. Everything we do is important. Yeah. However, that top of the league, typically, I would expect one team to fold down the stretch.
Right.
And that's normally due to just a crazy amount of injuries and they don't have enough depth. And one of those teams that has 1 or 2 wins will get on a streak.
Yep.
And that's my point. This is a streak game in the NFL. So you will hear players say, a team's 2-4. Is all we need to do is get on a 5-8 game winning streak. And I've been on 11-game winning streak, 8-game winning streak, 6-game winning streak. That's what you need to do in the NFL just to give your team a little breathing room. There'll be a team that wins 5 out of 6 or 6 out of 7 down the stretch to get into the playoffs.
So much of our collective consciousness as a country in consuming football stems from, first, because of the most emotional attachment I think you can get, although I know fans in places like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh would argue otherwise, but collegiate fan bases are the most rabid of the fan bases, because if you went to a school, you really can't say we when you're talking about Alabama or Montana or whatever. You were a part of that. Your degree says that, whatever. But I think that sometimes we get skewed over this notion that in football you have to go undefeated. In fact, in football, especially at the NFL and then the FCS level where the Grizz are at, how you respond to your first loss or your latest loss is actually the pivot point for your entire season, right?
Yeah, especially when you're in a sport that has a playoff situation in it. That would be the mantra. I mean, there's several things that you need to do to win Super Bowls. Number one is dominate your division.
Yeah.
The second thing is if you can't win your division, get into the playoffs. And we should call them chips. There's another chip, another win. Get ourselves into the playoffs because anybody that's in the playoffs has a chance to win. Really, the only teams that when they lose one or maybe two games is that top echelon of the college football teams that if they can't get into that small playoff type of situation, all their dreams are done. But the Grizz are right there now. One game at a time. They're a very good football team.
Yeah.
Get better every day, and good things tend to happen.
It's the same thing with teams that know they have good talent. Like the Browns right now coming into this year, right? They knew that they were going to be good. They're coming off a playoff berth. They fortified the roster even more. And they've had a couple crazy losses in a row, and they're 3-3 right now. But you just got to believe in the team you got, right? The Chiefs are the same way, right? Chiefs are sitting there 3-3. It's not panic time for the Chiefs. Even though they're 3-3, that's more losses they've had the last couple of years. They're still one of the contenders in the AFC, no question.
Oh, absolutely. Let me tell you, the philosophy that I grew up with in the NFL, the Mike Holmgren, Bill Walsh, now Andy Reid, we've started slow in many cases because our whole process was built to play our very best down the stretch and into the playoffs. So there was a couple times we started 0-2. My first coordinating job coming from Green Bay to San Francisco, I had the great Steve Young, the great Jerry Rice, heck of a defense. We got smashed in game one and then went on an 11-game win streak and ended up having home field advantage throughout the playoffs. So it's a streak game in the NFL. Get on a 3, 4, 5, 8-game win streak, and then you give yourself a little cushion down the stretch, and you're able to play your best football because that's when you need to.
Monday afternoon quarterback with Coach Marty Morningweg in studio with me, longtime NFL coach, offensive coordinator, quarterback guru, and a former University of Montana quarterback as well. Monday afternoon quarterback presented in part by Alpine Touch. You want to win some Alpine Touch? Well, you got two ways to do it. One, right now, call us, 888-1029. That's 888-1029. Caller number 3. Got a Grand Slam pack from Alpine Touch. All you got to do is give Andrew your information, and our good friends over at Alpine Touch will send it right to your doorstep. You want all the Alpine Touch you could possibly handle? You want to enter our fall giveaway. How do you do it? Subscribe to our podcast, Nuanez Now Podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And then go follow ESPN Missoula, Alpine Touch, and Haymaker Beef on Instagram and Facebook. It's easy as that. And then once you do that, 888-1029, text us and tell us you've been entered. That's going to get you eligible to win a Traeger smoker, a year supply Alpine Touch, and a beef box from Haymaker Beef. That's our awesome fall giveaway. We also have a grill, an otter box, and a cooler from Twisted Tea. So follow us on Facebook and Instagram, as well as subscribe to the Nuanez Now podcast and YouTube channel. Get you all entered. But if you want Alpine Touch right now, 888-1029. Got a Grand Slam pack for you. Give us a call here at Nuanez Now. Coach, last night, I was really racking my brain thinking about and analyzing Ben Roethlisberger against a lot of the other quarterbacks in the league. On one hand, Pittsburgh's going to have a hell of a time moving on from this guy because of all he's won, his consistency, his competitiveness, his familiarity with the coaching staff, the fan base, the ownership group, everything. But when you watch him, man, he's just not what he was. And it's not a fault of his. He's just been in the league for most of my life. So how hard is it, though, when you have a guy like that that's an iconic guy for franchises to move on from him?
Very, very difficult, especially at the quarterback position. Because even when they have a bunch of age to them, they can still win you games, and they still win you big games just because of their experience. That experience pays off. The quarterback and center position, very difficult to move on. That center is like the quarterback of that offensive line, and that's where it all starts. So those two spots to move on from a high-level player with great experience is always very difficult. I've been around some of the great quarterbacks, but also some of the great centers ever to play the game.
I'm glad you went down this road. Who are some of the best centers you coached? I'm a former
man.
center. I think that some people think this is boring. I think it's fascinating. I'm an offensive line guy. That's how I watch football, is on the lines. And I think that center is the most underrated position on the field, not close. I think some of the issues that, not just Montana, but a lot of the issues that a lot of teams that are struggling offensively have stem from the center position.
Well, things happen fast.
Right.
They're big men that have great quickness and strength, and it happens fast. And it happens fast on the pre-snap. Centers are making calls and directing the offensive line, and in some cases the tight ends and backs. And they have to get everybody on the same page, because like I said, that's where it starts. I started with Frank Winters in Green Bay, Jesse Sapolo. I just got done with Kelsey there, and
Jason Kelsey, one of my
everybody
favorites.
in between. Some great centers. So difficult to bring a young man in who may have only no starts or a few starts and think that you're going to be as good offensively with that center. Now, you may be as good 6 weeks from now.
Sure.
But he needs typically some experience in league games to rock and roll. Getting back to your quarterback, this man has won so many games. You're talking about Big Ben, and he can still win games. Very, very difficult. That's like Aaron Rodgers, the offseason drama.
Right.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, right. You're gonna allow Aaron Rodgers to leave?
That's what I was saying. When people were saying he was getting himself traded, I was like, what? He won the MVP last year. You don't trade the NFL MVP. That's not in the cards. That's not an option.
Right. And then you and I have talked about the philosophy of moving on from a player a year too early rather than a year too late. That does happen. It happens with some of the very best. Joe Montana, Brett Favre, and sometimes it's...
Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning, sometimes it's more than...
Phillip Rivers.
The only ones I can think of is Elway and Aikman were the only two to retire.
With their team. Steve Young.
Steve Young, who I coached.
But even Brett Favre, it made me very happy because I loved me some Brett Favre all the time growing up. And then when he was wearing purple, that was great. But I think it almost gave a bunch of Packers fans a stroke. So, it does. People forget Johnny Unitas once upon a time played for the Rams, right? After his career?
San Diego,
the Chargers. That's right. When San Diego had first started up. So, oftentimes you don't end your career with who you started with.
A great Johnny Unitas story. I met him here in Missoula. He was on the beer. Remember all those commercials?
Yeah.
Some listeners are probably too young for those commercials. And then my dad, we were in Houston. He took me to the Astrodome because he wanted me to see the great Johnny Unitas before he retired. It was a preseason game. He goes, "Let's go." I'm like 8 years old. Let's go see the great Johnny Unitas before he's done. And so that Johnny Unitas, when you say that, it juices me up. Let's eat.
I gotta love it. Marty Barnaway joining me, Colter Nuanez. It's the Monday afternoon quarterback here on Nuanez. Now we'll do this for the 5 o'clock hour on Mondays, presented in part by Brett's RV and Marine. Need a place to store your RV for the winter, or maybe you just want to, put it away, don't let it freeze up. Take it over to Brett's RV and Marine. They can get it serviced for you before you store it, or maybe they'll just buy it from you. They're buying all sorts of used inventory right now. So rather than store, sell. Stop by 4800 Grand Creek Road and start your next adventure with the premier RV dealer in Montana. That's all to say, even though we are sitting here talking about Ben Roethlisberger regressing, he did lead Pittsburgh to a win last night. And on the other side, Seattle, without their franchise guy, is searching for answers. So in your mind, you've gotten quarterbacks across the board ready in a lot of different fashions. When you got one of the best guys in the league and then he's out, how tough is that for NFL teams?
Well, it certainly puts some hours into your job. You're there till 1 or 2 a.m. typically. Geno Smith, you probably don't know this, but I coached him as a rookie.
In New York, right? With the Jets.
I went to New York to try to straighten Mark Sanchez out.
Right.
By the time we have our first regular season game, he's doing a shoulder surgery and knee surgery.
That's kind of the beginning of the end for him because he kind of just fell apart.
Yeah, and so Geno started all 16 games for us, and we go 8-8. We knocked off some really good teams. We knocked the team out of the playoffs down the stretch. We were one game out of the playoffs. And I really thought, and tried to keep them out of the mess, and use, play directly to his strength, keep them out of the mess. We had a decent defense, not a very good football team, though. We ended up going 8-8. I thought Geno's best years for him were going to be year 4 or 5 and then beyond. Well, he got his second opportunity and got an ACL, and then he's been a backup ever since. I would expect Geno to play better than he did last night.
It's also worth noting that we're sitting here and making it quarterback heavy because that is the premier position in professional sports, to be quite honest. And it's definitely fun to analyze. But make no mistake, the Steelers won last night, and they're winning football games, period, because of their defense. The Steelers are nasty on defense. TJ Watt is an unbelievable player. I mean, he played out of his mind last night. I couldn't believe how good he was.
One of the great players ever to play. He
really is. He and his brother. Has there ever been a brother combination like that where they're both like all-time guys?
Well,
the Matthews.
Yep, the Matthews would be the ones that would come to mind on the offensive side of the ball. So it's not as dynamic as the Watt brothers. But, Pittsburgh defense is still very, very good. Schematically, they've calmed down just a little bit. You remember it used to be a blitz fest.
Oh, yeah.
And they'd bring 4 from a side, and they would disguise it really well, and they had a great, strong safety who covered a lot of things up. Now they're playing basic defense for much of the game and playing it very, very well, and almost a bend but don't break, and they expect some of their great players to make a great play occasionally throughout the game.
And there's so many headlines that are garnered by all sorts of different players, but to me, one of the most underrated offseason signings was Joe Schobert, who plays inside linebacker for him. I mean, he runs so well. He makes your defense so versatile. I mean, he was the leading tackler in the NFL multiple times in a row for the Cleveland Browns. Most people are like, who's Joe Schobert? Well, he led the NFL in tackling. He's an amazing player. And I also think that their safeties, I mean, Minkah Fitzpatrick is everything they wanted him to be since they made that draft day trade with Miami. And I just think that their personnel upgrades, plus Devin Bush coming back from injury, I mean, Pittsburgh has refortified what has always been so solid in Pittsburgh, and which went away, quite frankly, the last couple of years in their defense.
Yeah, I think it's what they're missing is just a little bit, and I think they're trying. They're trying to get it back a little bit of the run game to help Big Ben just a little bit. And then that defense, I was not as impressed early as I am now. Well, you've got some younger players, you've got some free agents coming, and they're sort of putting that thing together just a little bit. Now, I will tell you, Seattle, sort of like the Grizz, were a little bit conservative, I thought.
Totally.
Now my personality is, hey, let's turn it loose and just keep them out of the mess. But the Grizz and Seattle were probably a little bit conservative for some really good reasons.
Totally.
Right? But I would suspect that both teams will turn their quarterback loose just a touch more, and that may equal a couple more touchdowns a game.
Monday afternoon quarterback with Coach Marty Morningway, joining me, Colter Nuanez, in studio. Coach, perhaps the biggest beatdown of the day yesterday came with the Baltimore Ravens just rolling it up. And it seems like the Ravens, they might stub their toe every once in a while within the scope of a season, but the style that they play seems like it's way less catering to bad matchups. It seems, I guess what I'm saying is it seems like the Ravens don't really have a bad matchup because they kind of just do what they do. So how hard is that, or I guess how much does that cater to what the success that they've had in Baltimore?
Well, with the Ravens defense, I would suspect there's only 6 or 8 quarterbacks and staffs that are together that can play really well against Baltimore's defense. Just specifically scheme and talent. You have to have played them once or twice and taken some lumps to really get after them. I thought the Raiders did a heck of a job because they do some things that other teams do not do on defense, and you may see it once a year from the Baltimore Ravens. And then on offense, they have a hell of a run game, and Lamar, I think, has made the last step. He's throwing the football very accurately. this year, more than he ever has. He's always thrown a lot of touchdowns because of the run game. People get wide open.
For sure.
But he's made another big step in his quarterback, the ability to play quarterback at a high level. The only time the Ravens get into trouble is if they fall behind by a couple of scores early in the fourth quarter. Now Lamar's taken that last step. I see them winning a game or two that they normally would have lost when they come up against a team like that.
Since we are at the sort of 1/3 point of the season, let's talk a little bit about some of the teams that have been big surprises or not, or maybe have not lived up to expectations. I think that almost everybody that talks about and analyzes the NFL would agree perhaps the biggest surprise is the only team in the NFL that is undefeated. That's the Arizona Cardinals. For whatever reason, there's still some skepticism out there. They're doing it different than everybody else, so I think that people around the league are having a hard time figuring out what's going on. But 6-0 is 6-0. I mean, you'd have to really burn it down to not at least have an inside track at the playoffs right now. So Arizona, they've been really good and very surprising.
You and I talked about that before.
Yeah.
I'm not as surprised.
Right,
Now, 6-0,
totally.
certainly.
Yeah.
I thought they should have won more games last year. I thought they were a heck of a team last year, and they screwed a couple of things up, I thought. They're even better this year. Their defense is very good, and they've got firepower on offense. 6-0, surprise? Yeah, a little bit. But one of the top teams, no.
I guess the only reason that makes it surprising is not even necessarily that they've had success. It's just the division that they're in. I guess I didn't expect the division they're in is very good. I didn't expect the Cardinals to be leading the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Niners because I thought all three of those teams were contenders for the conference, let alone their own division.
It's amazing how 1 year changes the perception or injuries,
for sure,
off-season moves, one more year together in a positive manner. Things change fast in the NFL.
No question. I mean, you can never account for what are you going to do if you lose Russell Wilson. I mean, he's a $35 million a year player who's one of the, 3, 4, 5 best guys in the league. So, you lose him, that's just a hit to your prospects, no question. Anybody who else has stood out to you as far as surprises on the good side of things?
Cowboys.
5-1 after yesterday. Their offense is unbelievable. Their defense is serviceable, which I think is when they're. The offense is like it is. I mean, good luck. When Dak's playing like this, when Dak Prescott's playing like he's playing, I mean, CeeDee Lamb might be the sneaky best addition that they ever made. Man, that guy is lights out. He is so sweet.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, they looked really bad at some points last year.
Yes, they did.
And they've really turned it around now. Dak Prescott is a big part of that. Their defensive scheme and the way they're playing, they're sort of holding it together. And then their offensive firepower sort of overcomes any negativity on the defensive side. So I think they've done a heck of a job. I thought they'd be more like 500 right about now.
Right. It's definitely been impressive. The other couple teams that I had as pleasant surprises so far this year, the Los Angeles Chargers, although they did get drilled by the Ravens because Justin Herbert has just continued to be good. I thought maybe the league would adjust to what they saw during his outstanding rookie year, but he has obviously progressed as well, and him progressing makes him one of the better guys in football. So
they just did adjust.
Right.
The Ravens.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden everybody's going to be watching that film to see what you do.
So Herbert's and that staff's challenge now is to stay one step ahead of your opponent because Baltimore sort of showed the league how to play defense against that quarterback and that scheme. So now you've got to bounce back just to get a step ahead of what Baltimore just did to you.
And the last pleasant surprise I had was the Las Vegas Raiders. And I know that the controversy that's surrounded that franchise over the last week or so has been not good. We're not going to spend any time talking about that here because people come here for the fun and the positivity and the analysis. It's a bad deal, what happened, and I think it's, I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts about it. We're not going to share very many of them here on this radio show. But for the Raiders to get off to a good start and then have what happened with John Gruden happen and then still go out and win yesterday, that was a huge win for them. And I've been very impressed with the Raiders so far this year.
The Raiders are a good football team, and typically when your head coach is gone at some point during the year or an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator, when they're gone, usually this is what happens. One of two things. You either play over your head for a couple weeks and you come back down to where you probably were back before that happened. Or you disintegrate for a couple weeks and you come back up to about where you were before those changes happened. And it looks like the Raiders have a little juice going. This is called adversity. Some teams with really good leaders respond excellent towards a little bit of adversity, and this was a lot of adversity, by the way. You remember the old Cowboys back in the day? They go through all kinds of adversity in the offseason and in season.
It was like a soap opera.
Loved it. Yeah.
It was like a soap opera. It was like reality TV before reality TV was created.
So maybe the Raiders sort of like a little bit of adversity.
Yeah, it could exactly be true. Coach, thanks so much for swinging by. We're going to get to maybe some of the other side of this thing next time, but we appreciate you being here. It's the Monday afternoon quarterback with Coach Marty Morningweg in studio with me here on Nuanez Now. Awesome stuff as always, man.
Coulter, I loved it. Let's juice it up next week.
We'll be back next Monday with the Monday afternoon quarterback. Out of football into hockey, Montana, a enormous rivalry win on the ice. How did it go down? The general manager, Tucker Sargent, will tell us all about it right after this.
Why build a work history at a job when you can build a future in your own business? Westpac Wealth Partners is looking for entrepreneurial-minded people who are ready to take their future into their own hands. Nick Tabor and his associates provide clients with financial tools and tested solutions for navigating this complex financial climate. Westpac Wealth also has a work culture that has been recognized as a best workplace in Fortune magazine. If you're ready to start building a business in a long-term career, apply at westpacwealth.com. Westpac Wealth Partners, LLC is not an affiliate or subsidiary of PAS or Guardian Insurance Products offered through Westpac Wealth Partners and Insurance Services, LLC, a DBA of Westpac Wealth Partners, LLC.
Paul Ryan is a name that's been synonymous with law around the Garden City for decades. And Paul is excited to announce the expansion of his firm to Ryan, Holloway, and Miller. Paul Ryan, Nate Holloway, and Angie Miller have a fierce love for their community and want to help you with any of your legal needs. From auto accidents to medical malpractice to wrongful death or any criminal defense, Ryan, Holloway, and Miller should be your first call. Paul has established a reputation as the top legal mind in Missoula, claiming the Garden City's best attorney honors 13 different years. Ryan, Holloway & Miller is a local firm with experience and intimate knowledge to help clients with any needs. Ryan, Holloway & Miller will be available to take your calls at any time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So no matter what your legal needs in western Montana and around the Treasure State, when it comes to personal injury or criminal defense, call Ryan, Holloway & Miller today. Ryan, Holloway & Miller, your Montana attorneys.
Open your new Stockman Bank account anytime, anywhere with online account opening. Now, you can open an account in minutes on your laptop, tablet, or mobile phone. It's convenient, simple, and secure. Open your new account today at stockmanbank.com. Then, add our online and mobile banking services so you can manage your money when, where, and how you want. Stockman Bank, Montana's brand of banking. Member FDIC.
In Italian, tagliere means to cut in two. How fitting, because when you visit Tagliere Deli, Missoula's best sandwiches are so mountainous, you'll certainly need to cut them in half. From the Food Network to the best of Missoula, the public has spoken, and Tagliere Deli in Missoula has the best sandwiches in the entire Garden City. If you haven't tried Tagliere or you're craving a delicious sandwich, either stop into the deli located next to the roundabout at Higgins and Beckwith, or tune in to Nuanez Now every Tuesday for your chance to win. Tagliere Deli and ESPN Missoula providing you free sandwiches every Tuesday. The old cliche is that nobody cares about your fantasy football team, but that's not entirely true at ESPN Missoula. Tune in each Wednesday to Nuanez Now during the 4 o'clock hour for Wing It Wednesday, presented by the Desperado Sports Tavern and Grill. For years, the Desperado has been providing the best wings in the city of Missoula to you, the loyal listeners, and now Nuanez Now is giving Wing It Wednesday a new spin. Call or text into your favorite daily sports talk show each Wednesday with your fantasy football questions and enter to win a dozen wings from the King of Wings. Wing It Wednesday, reminding you that even if no one else cares about your fantasy football team, we're here for you.
It's outside. AM time. Then what it do? Southwest. It grind season. It
So I'm driving home from Ogden, Utah. Got out of town there about midnight. Got many texts from our owner and general manager here at Missoula Broadcasting Company telling me about this unbelievable hockey game that she was just at. And then, as it continued into the morning, calls, texts, what's up with Grizz hockey? Did you hear about the Grizz hockey game last night? So then I got to the pregame show, our college game day pregame show, and I got filled in all the way. And now I've heard the story no less than 17 times, but I'm not going to let myself tell it. I'm going to let Tucker Sargent, the general manager of Grizz hockey, set the scene for Friday night. So, Tuck, first of all, welcome in. Thanks for being here. We're pre-recording this on a Monday. We have to tell you now that we're pre-recording everything. It's FCC. So, Tuck's in studio here on Monday morning. And Grizz hockey keeps rolling, man. But this sounds like this was maybe perhaps the most exciting win of this young program and young season.
It was definitely, well, first off, thank you for having me early and allowing us to pre-record. But, yeah, this was definitely the most exciting game for this program, without a doubt. I mean, it's a young program, but, you know, I was telling people, and I think a lot of people there, I mean, this may have been the most exciting hockey game that I've been a part of, professional, amateur, college, whatever. Just because, I mean, for so many reasons. Like you said, it's a young program. So
it's against a rival, Montana State's in town.
It's against a big rival. And, you know, Montana State is an established program. They're a very good program. Very good program.
How long have they had hockey there at Montana State? It's been a while, right?
I mean, over 20 years.
I was going to say, because when I was at the newspaper, this was circa 2010 to 2012. I was covering them then, so they've been around for a while.
They've been around for a while, and really in the last 5 to 7 years, they've taken their program up to another level, where they've been to nationals a number of times. They've won the regionals. I mean, this is an established, nationally ranked program, full of very good players, bringing kids from all over the country out to come play for them. They had 75 kids try out for the program.
Wow.
So, I mean, no shortage of skill and depth there. And, you know, this is where we want to be. This is our goal. I mean, the Grizz should be at the same level of Montana State in a couple of years. But year one, you know, we were recruiting kids here, basically selling them on a dream that we're going to have a program, that it's going to be competitive, that it's going to have an awesome fan base. But really, we had nothing to prove it. And in the first game, we had the fan base came out and proved that. And now, you know, our second home game against Montana State, you're getting all their top dogs. And they came in, I saw them before the game, very confident, very arrogant with how they were going to beat Montana. And that wasn't really undue either. I mean, they are, if you look at them, you know, we're a team of largely freshmen, sophomores, a couple transfers, but a young, smaller, underdeveloped team. And Montana State, when you look at them compared to us, I mean, it looked like men versus boys generally if you just took them without their pads and set them up. So
I got to ask you this. This is sort of a tangent off of this.
Sure.
But is there a certain affluent nature to club sports at Montana State? I guess what I'm asking is, Bozeman, the growth of Bozeman and the correlating growth of Montana State University, it seems to me, are attracting a certain type of out-of-state student. Is that true when it comes to hockey?
I don't know.
I guess like if you're from Minneapolis or you're from the East Coast and your parents are going to pay for you to go to school in Bozeman, it's not the tuition cost, it's the everything else cost. So you're likely going to be from, I guess, I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much about this, but.
No, I don't think you're wrong. I don't know for a fact that that's true for every kid, but I would say that, you know, as a broad general statement, you're really not far off the rails.
Yeah.
No, I think that.
So they sort of the elitist image I have in my mind is sort of accurate.
Yeah, again, I don't know, but that's sort of the image I have in my mind as well. So again,
shame on us for digressing into stereotypes. But anyways,
yeah, you know, I try and stay away from that. But again, I do have to say I'm very impressed with the Bozeman program at Montana State. They've done a wonderful job. Dave Weaver, the coach there, has really, I mean, he came in and changed it from sort of a program that was just kind of getting by, doing, you know, being a middling program, to really elevating it to being an exceptional hockey team and getting good players out there. And like I said, I mean, we're emulating a lot of what they're doing. I mean, where they are is where we want to be. And I think if you look at what Missoula and the support Missoula has for our program, it's not going to take long for us to get there. I mean, the easiest thing in the world is to bring a kid to Glacier Ice Rink for a hockey game right now and show them the crowds that are showing up.
No
I mean, we've
question.
had 2 sellout games. Our team is going to get much, much better very quickly just because kids want to now come and play at Missoula. I mean, we're undefeated at home. We're 4-1 on the season. You know, it's going a lot better than you really could have ever hoped for a first-year program. I mean, I think if as a first-year program in any league, if you could get out of it at 500, you would call that a win. You know, now we're far exceeding the expectations, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fan base. I mean, you know, coming back to this game, the energy at Glacier Ice Rink that you feel from the crowd definitely gets the players going. And in this one, like I said, we were pretty much against an overmatched opponent in the Montana State team. You know, the players played their hearts out. It was pretty close. They went down. They got a couple of goals at the end of the third period where they went down 3-1. That you know, one of them was kind of soft. It was a screenshot the goalie didn't get a chance to see, but you're thinking like, all right, you know what? A couple easy ones, we could get that back, but 3-1, not bad going into it. Let's see what happens going into the third. Right off the bat, a couple minutes into the third period, MSU scores another goal. The score is 4-1. And you're thinking, oh man, these kids fought hard, but you know, MSU's is showing their true colors. Like, sure, this is a higher team. And the conversation in the locker room before the third period was, look, you can't get frustrated. You've got 20 minutes to change the course of this game, make a play, play for each other, do something right. Hockey's a crazy game. Maybe you get a couple bounces here and we can get this thing close and then see what happens. So we go down 4-1 and you're thinking, man, this could really go either way, right? MSU could just kind of, put the gas down and run away with it, or maybe we can get this thing a little bit closer. And fortunately, the latter happened, where we're down 4-1. Eddie Lockridge, freshman out of Missoula, Montana, local kid.
Gotta love it.
Chips a puck out of it was on the D zone, chips a puck out, gets a breakaway, goes down and scores. And the place just erupts, brings it to 4-2. About 45 seconds after that, another goal is scored. It's 4-3, and then all of a sudden you could just see the players, the energy of the crowd, and everyone is just feeding off of each other. And the game gets tied 4-4, and you're thinking, no way. Are we even going to get close to getting an overtime? And then with about 30 seconds left, maybe a minute, the fifth goal goes in. There were 4 goals scored in the last 14 minutes of the game, unanswered, for the University of Montana 5-4 victory. And it's hard to put into words the energy and excitement that you had internally, but I mean, people were talking to me about this all weekend long. And a lot of the credit goes to the players, but a lot of the credit goes to the fans for making that happen.
And as we talked about after the first week, the first opening weekend, hockey is such a momentum-based game, right? So it seems as
hugely momentum.
Tucker Sargent, by the way, joining us here on Nuanez now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula. It seems as if they harnessed the momentum and sort of rode it, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's kind of what you're hoping for. Unfortunately, we seem to catch lightning in a bottle for the last 14 minutes, and all of a sudden you got that feeling where this train's not stopping. Like, this is going to happen. And it did. And I mean, I'm still sort of at a loss for words of what happened. It was a David versus Goliath. It was a Miracle on Ice, 1980 USA versus Russia sort of type feeling. Obviously not the same sort of gravitas, but that was kind of the electric feel that you had in the rink that night.
How do you harness that momentum then going forward? I mean, do you feel like this could be a spring point for this team, since they did this is sort of an affirming moment in the sort of infancy of Grizz hockey here?
Well, totally. I think it showed the boys that they can play at this level and they can play with these guys. Now it needs to be a thing where, you're able to do it night after night after night after night. Hockey's a long season, but I think really what you take away from this is that, you play for each other. You can play with these guys, that Grizz hockey really belongs. I mean, I think that's the feeling that we got from this, that it's not this punky upstart anymore, is that everything we've been telling the players about building a culture, building a team, was sort of confirmed that night. And, it would be foolish to say that the Grizz are going to go undefeated the rest of the season, but it's not foolish to say that we belong in every game that we're going to play from this point forward.
one of the groups that I think is going to have one of the coolest experiences here is, and there's sort of a parallel, like when University of Montana added softball. There's always been a lot of great softball players in the state of Montana, and there was not very much of a dream for them to go play because there was not a lot of regional schools that had it. It's like if you're not getting recruited by Washington, there's no one really in the Northwest you can go play for. I guess Idaho State has had softball for a while, but like my sister-in-laws, they're always like, well, I wish the Grizz would have had softball when I was coming up. We would have definitely tried to play for the Grizz. But I think that's so cool now, though, because there's a lot of kids that have played hockey in Missoula or around Western Montana or the state of Montana that really had no goal to go attain or a dream to chase. Yeah, these guys are kind of living that dream.
And the state of Montana has had a number of very good prep players come out, but they've had to go elsewhere. And the city of Missoula in particular has one of the strongest youth programs in the state. I mean, the high school team has won multiple state championships. And, then it's sort of after high school, where do you go? And it's sort of hard from Montana to go to these other programs. So really, it is cool that we have a number of local kids. Another one, our starting goalie that night, Sammy Myland, played out of his mind. Like I said, we mentioned Eddie Lockridge earlier. We've got a number of other local Montana kids on the team that were big impact players in this game, with our captain, Zach Lawson, or Wyatt Plute, a defender, that really had outstanding performances. But now you're getting at the game, you could see the kids, they're buying the jerseys, they're emulating these players. And ideally, we are in the future going to be recruiting and retaining more of the local kids from Missoula and the rest of the state of Montana, because this is now a destination that kids can come and play and stay and go to the University of Montana. Not to mention, I mean, you can't fill a roster with just Montana kids to play at this level. There's not enough, and there's going to be a certain number of kids that want to go elsewhere. But what we're able to supplement then is a huge number of out-of-state kids that are coming here. And since we've launched the program, the number of recruiting forms and requests for coming out for campus visits and looking at the program, wanting to play here, has grown exponentially. So really, this is an excellent recruiting tool for keeping kids local and playing for the Grizz, but then also bringing those out-of-state kids from hockey hotbeds that want to be out west, that want to be at a school at the University of Montana. But one of the requirements for them is to continue to play hockey at a high level.
Grizz hockey back in town this week, home and home, right? So you got a little home game Friday and then an away game on Saturday. Is that right?
University of Providence this Friday, 7:30 p.m. at the Glacier Ice Rink. That one's home. And then Saturday night, we'll be heading over to Great Falls to play them on Saturday evening. So if you want to see the action, you want to see the excitement, I would definitely suggest getting to the rink this Friday, 7:30 p.m. You can get your tickets early by picking them up at Hockey Wolf on Brook Street, and I highly suggest you do that just because the line, you can get tickets at the gate, but that line has been getting longer and longer. So if you want to get in quick, you want to get in early, get your tickets this week at Hockey Wolf on Brook Street. If you don't get a chance, we will have tickets at the gate. You can get them there, but it's an excellent show. Be there Friday night, 7:30 p.m.
At least a couple times a month, maybe as much as once a week, depending on when the Grizz are home and away. We will be featuring hockey segments, specifically focused on Grizz hockey, but also other elements of the hockey world. So keep it tuned. We also have each and every home game right here on 102.9 ESPN Missoula. So we're your one-stop shop for all things hockey. Tuck, thanks so much for coming in, man.
Thanks for having me.
Good job. Sounds like an exciting weekend.
Oh, I love family road trips. Wind in my ears.
Good talk.
Treats in my mouth, and peace of mind knowing Les Schwab did our tires, brakes, and alignment. Like Les Schwab, my family's safety is my first priority. Well, that and squeaky toys.
Swing by today and get road trip ready with our always free pre-trip safety check. Les Schwab Tires. Applies to passenger cars, SUVs, and light trucks only. Details at leschwab.com/safety.
I get this question a lot. Jay, what's your love of trucks all about? Is it the versatility, the power, or do you just like the look and feel of the truck? Well, it's all the above. Trucktober is on now at Northwest Motorsport, and we're bringing you along for the ride with low interest rates and savings on your favorite off-road lifted and diesel rigs. Shop over 900 trucks online at nwmsrocks.com. That's Northwest Motorsport. Trucks, and more trucks.
The world of real estate is always evolving. That's more true now than ever. If you are a longtime Missoulian that is looking to upgrade or downsize, it might be the best time yet to sell. If you're in the position to buy something new, today might be the best time to buy. And no matter what questions you have when it comes to residential or commercial real estate, Mike Nugent and the professionals at Berkshire Hathaway in Missoula have your answers. To find out what Mike can do for you, give him a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
If you're one of thousands of businesses that face additional charges from a money transferring service, Farmer State Bank has great news. They offer Zelle, a fast, safe, and easy way to send money to friends, family, and others you trust that have a U.S. bank account. Best of all, it's free at Farmer State Bank. Simply download our mobile money app and follow the prompts to enroll with Zelle today. It's fast, it's green, and it's free. Farmer State Bank. Member FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
Fresh ingredients combined with home-style recipes are what we're serving on the Montana Club's Fall Comfort Food Menu. Warm up with the Osso Buco or hearty chicken fried chicken, or savor our hot in the skillet chicken pot pie. Of course, cool days call for yummy desserts. Cap things off with the club's creamy pumpkin skillet a la mode or skillet apple pie. Visit your Montana Club today. Full menu at montanaclub.com. The Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
For 4 years running, Coulter Nuanez and the team at ESPN Missoula have captured the E.B. Craney Award for Radio Sports Coverage of the Year. Each Wednesday on Nuanez Now, the featured long-form interview of the week takes center stage. Tune in to Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula or SWX Montana Television to hear the Montana Radio Sportscaster of the Year conduct an in-depth interview with prominent sports figures from around Montana. The ESPN Roundtable during the 5 o'clock hour each Wednesday on Nuanez Now is proudly presented by Paradise Falls.
It's Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula. Watch the show statewide on SWX Montana Television.
I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I get to hang out with my good friends and talk about sports. And you guys listen, and we appreciate you for doing it. And it's just so much fun. Welcome back. Nuanez Now, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Thanks so much for kicking it with us here on a Monday. Thanks to Riley Corcoran, voice of the Grizz, for participating in the Montana Football Hour, giving you reactions and analysis of the college football games in the state of Montana from over the weekend. Thanks to Marty Morningweg for our Monday afternoon quarterback with Coach Marty. And thanks to Tucker Sargent from Grizz Hockey. All of today's show, all those great guests can be found on the podcast, proudly presented by Blackfoot Communications, the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel, and Sportsbet Montana. I'm Coulter Nuanez. We'll be back at it tomorrow. Treasure State Stars, Taglieri, and a bunch of other stuff. So keep it right here. We'll see you tomorrow, 4 p.m. Nuanez Now, 102.9 ESPN Missoula.
Buying or selling a home can be an intimidating task. Brent Wahlberg and the Wahlberg team of Windermere Real Estate are here to make you feel comfortable no matter where you're at in the process. The official